Jake Morrison stood in the great hall of Nexus Prime and felt his world crumble around him. The massive crystal walls stretched up into darkness above, while 12 alien beings sat in judgment of his entire species. He had served as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 8 years and thought he understood these creatures, but the cold hatred in their eyes told him he had been wrong about everything. The Zephyrian High Magistrate floated before him like a storm, cloud made of light and fury. Its voice echoed through his mind without using sound at all, each word cutting deeper than any blade ever could. Ambassador Morrison, the Council has reached its final decision regarding the human species and your planet Earth. Jake's hands shook as he gripped the speaking platform. Behind him stood the other human diplomats who had worked so hard to build relationships with these alien races. Dr. Patricia Kane had spent her entire career studying their cultures and trying to find common ground. She looked like she might collapse at any moment. For 200 years we have watched your species with growing concern, the magistrate continued. You wage wars against your own kind while claiming to seek peace. You expand across star systems like a disease while speaking of exploration. You develop weapons of incredible destruction while promising they are for defense only. The other council members nodded their various heads and appendages in agreement. The Altarian representative, a being that looked like living metal, spoke next. Humans are too dangerous to remain part of civilized galactic society. Your aggressive nature threatens the peace we have maintained for over 3,000 years. Jake tried to speak but found his voice caught in his throat. This was not how the meeting was supposed to go. He had come here to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. The humans had followed every council law and regulation perfectly. They had contributed to galactic science and helped solve conflicts between other species. We have prepared detailed evidence of human violations, announced the Centauri delegate. Images began floating in the air above the assembly, showing human military exercises, weapons testing, and rapid colonization efforts. These activities prove that humans cannot be trusted with the responsibilities of galactic citizenship. On the orbital station New Geneva, Captain Lisa Grant received the transmission with growing horror. She commanded one of Earth's most advanced starships and had always been proud of humanity's place among the stars. Now she watched as everything her people had built was being torn away by alien politicians, who had never bothered to truly understand them. The message was clear and brutal. All human colonies beyond the Sol system had to be abandoned within 1 standard year. Earth would be placed under permanent quarantine with no contact allowed between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Any attempt to leave their home solar system would be met with the combined military might of all 12 council races. Back on Nexus Prime, Jake finally found his voice. Please, honored magistrates, you must reconsider this decision. Humanity has so much to offer the galaxy. Our scientists have made breakthrough discoveries that benefit everyone. Our explorers have mapped new regions of space and found resources that help all council worlds. The Zephyrian's light grew brighter with anger. Your scientists create weapons disguised as tools. Your explorers claim territory that belongs to no single species. Your very existence is a threat to the natural order of things. Dr. Kane stepped forward, her face wet with tears. I have spent my life studying your cultures and learning your languages. I have friends among your people. Surely that counts for something. Surely we can find a way to work together. The decision is final, the Altarian declared. No further discussion will be permitted. The transmission reached Earth just as President Nathan Cross was preparing for his morning briefing. The leader of humanity sat in stunned silence as the words sank in. Banished, exiled, cut off from the galaxy they had called home for 2 centuries, within hours. Protests erupted across Earth cities while panic spread through the outer colonies. On Mars, terraforming operations ground to a halt as colonists realized they might never see their project completed. In the asteroid belt, mining operations stopped as workers wondered if they would be forced to abandon everything they had built. Admiral Kyle Hudson received the news aboard his flagship in deep space near Jupiter. The veteran military officer had fought in several border conflicts and knew the Council's military capabilities better than anyone. His first thought was not of surrender, but of resistance. If the aliens wanted a fight, humanity could give them one. They would never forget Dr. Emma Stone was conducting quantum physics experiments on Europa when the announcement reached her research station. The brilliant scientist immediately began calculating the odds of human survival in isolation. The numbers were not encouraging, but her mind was already racing toward possible solutions that the Council had never imagined. As news spread through human space, different reactions emerged among the population. Some called for immediate compliance with the Council's demands. Others demanded that Earth's military fight back against this injustice. Most simply stood in shock, unable to believe that their alien neighbors had turned against them so completely. Jake Morrison made one final plea to the assembled Council members. If you do this, you will regret it. Humanity has always found a way to survive and thrive despite impossible odds. We will remember this betrayal. The Zephyrian magistrate's response chilled him to the bone. If you attempt to defy this ruling, your species will cease to exist entirely. The great hall fell silent as the weight of those words settled on everyone present. Jake looked around at the alien faces that had once seemed friendly and welcoming. Now they appeared as cold and distant as the space between stars. The Council session ended with humanity given exactly 1 year to withdraw from galactic civilization. As Jake and his delegation prepared to return to Earth with the devastating news, he wondered if this was truly the end of humanity's dream among the stars. Or perhaps the beginning of something the aliens could never have anticipated. 6 months had passed since the Council's devastating announcement, and humanity was splitting apart like a broken mirror. On Earth, President Nathan Cross found himself caught between two growing factions that seemed ready to tear their species in half before the aliens could even act. Helen Roberts had formed the Compliance Coalition in the weeks following the exile order. The former diplomat believed that humanity's survival depended on accepting the Council's judgment and preparing for a life of isolation within the solar system. Her followers worked frantically to build secure habitats in the outer reaches of human space, converting asteroid mining stations into self-sufficient communities that could sustain millions of people for generations. We must be realistic about our situation, Helen argued during heated debates in the Earth Assembly. The Council has the combined military might of 12 advanced civilizations. They could wipe us out completely if we resist. Our only hope is to show them we can be peaceful and contained. But Admiral Kyle Hudson saw things very differently. The veteran military commander had spent his career studying alien military tactics and knew their weaknesses as well as their strengths. From his hidden command center in the Kuiper Belt, he began building what would become known as the Liberation Front. They expect us to roll over and accept defeat, Kyle told his growing circle of supporters. But humans have never been good at accepting defeat. We fight back. The Liberation Front operated from converted mining platforms and research stations scattered throughout the outer solar system. Their main base, built inside the hollowed-out asteroid Defiance, housed thousands of scientists, engineers, and military personnel who refused to give up humanity's place among the stars. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb led the most critical project in human history. Working in laboratories carved deep into Defiance's rocky core, his teams raced against time to develop technologies that could level the playing field against the Council's overwhelming advantages. The breakthrough came when Dr. Emma Stone joined their efforts. Emma had fled her Europa research station when Council patrol ships began monitoring human activities in the outer system. Her work on quantum mechanics had always been theoretical, but the desperate circumstances pushed her to attempt practical applications that most scientists considered impossible. What if we could make our ships exist outside normal space-time for brief periods? She proposed during a late-night brainstorming session. The Council's sensors work by detecting matter and energy in our dimensional framework. If we phase shift outside that framework, we become invisible to them. Marcus immediately grasped the implications. Phase jumping could revolutionize space travel. We could appear anywhere without following predictable flight paths. The early experiments were dangerous and often deadly. 3 test pilots died when their ships failed to return to normal space, lost forever in dimensions human minds could barely comprehend. But each failure taught them more about the principles involved. While the scientists worked on phase jump technology, Commander Rick Hayes led covert rescue operations throughout human space. His ship Exodus had been modified with experimental stealth systems that allowed it to slip past Council patrol fleets. Rick and his crew saved thousands of colonists from remote outposts that would have been impossible to evacuate through. Official channels. During one such mission to the mining colony on Titan 7, Rick discovered something that changed everything. A young Zephyrian entity calling itself. Alex had been secretly monitoring human communications and had become fascinated by their defiant spirit. Not all of my people agree with the Council's decision, Alex communicated through modulated energy patterns. There are those among us who believe humans deserve a chance to prove themselves. The alien rebel began providing crucial intelligence about Council fleet movements and technological specifications. More importantly, Alex shared insights into Zephyrian energy manipulation techniques that helped Emma refine her phase jump theories back on Defiance. Industrial Coordinator Sally Mitchell supervised the construction of humanity's first secret fleet. The asteroid's interior had been transformed into a massive shipyard where hundreds of workers labored around the clock to build vessels. Unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, these new ships were smaller than traditional Council warships, but packed with revolutionary technology. Tony Parker, the Liberation Front's chief weapons designer, had developed plasma cannons that could phase shift their energy beams, allowing them to bypass conventional shielding systems entirely. The Council relies on their superior numbers and firepower, Tony explained to Kyle during a strategy meeting. But if we can hit them from angles they can't predict or defend against, we can even the odds. The first successful phase jump test occurred on a cold morning in the asteroid belt. Emma stood in the Defiance control room as the prototype ship, Phantom, prepared for its maiden voyage. The vessel's experimental drive activated with a sound like reality tearing apart, and suddenly the ship simply ceased to exist. For 30 seconds that felt like hours, Emma wondered if they had sent another crew to their deaths. Then space twisted again and Phantom reappeared exactly where it had vanished, its crew alive and exhilarated by their journey through impossible dimensions. "We did it," the pilot's voice crackled over the communication system. "We actually jumped outside normal space. The stars looked different, like we were seeing them from another universe entirely." News of the successful test spread quickly through the Liberation Front's hidden network. Scientists who had been working on separate projects suddenly saw new possibilities. Engineers began designing larger ships that could carry entire families through phase space. Military planners started developing tactics that could use dimensional jumping to confuse and overwhelm enemy forces. The Council remained unaware of humanity's technological breakthrough. Their patrol ships continued following STA-NDA-RD search patterns while human vessels began moving freely through space-time dimensions they could not detect. Alex provided regular updates on Council activities, allowing the Liberation Front to avoid confrontations until they were ready. As the one-year deadline approached, more humans abandoned the inner solar system to join Kyle's growing resistance. Movement scientists from the most prestigious universities brought their knowledge and expertise to Defiance. Military officers resigned their official commissions to serve in the Shadow Fleet. Even some members of Helen's Compliance Coalition began questioning whether surrender was truly the only option. Dr. Patricia Kane arrived at Defiance 6 weeks before the deadline, bringing with her detailed files on Council psychology and decision-making processes. The xenobiologist had spent months studying her former alien colleagues and reached a disturbing conclusion. "They never intended to let us live peacefully in isolation," she told Kyle during her first briefing. "The exile is just the first step. Once we're contained and defenseless, they plan to eliminate us entirely. I've seen this pattern in their historical records. Dozens of species have simply disappeared after being judged too dangerous for galactic society, Kyle nodded grimly. The Admiral had suspected as much but hoped he was wrong. Now Patricia's research confirmed his worst fears and strengthened his resolve to resist. The Liberation Front's membership swelled to over 2 million, humans scattered across dozens of hidden bases throughout the outer system. Their fleet of phase-jump-capable vessels grew daily as more shipyards came online. Most importantly, their alliance with the Zephyrian rebels provided access to advanced technologies that could make humanity competitive with the Council's ancient civilizations. As the deadline arrived, humanity was no longer the helpless species the Council had condemned. Hidden in dimensions the aliens could not perceive, a new human civilization was preparing to claim its destiny among the stars. The Council's ultimatum expired at exactly 0000 Galactic Standard Time, but Admiral Kyle Hudson had no intention of waiting for their response. 3 weeks earlier, he had launched Operation Phoenix, the largest and most daring evacuation in human history. Every man, woman, and child living beyond Earth's orbit would be relocated to hidden settlements in uncharted space before the alien fleets could react. Commander Amanda Brooks stood on the bridge of the massive transport ship, New Beginning, as it prepared to receive its first group of refugees from the Mars colonies. The converted cargo hauler had been transformed into a generation ship capable of sustaining 50,000 people during the long journey to humanity's new home. Amanda watched through the viewports as smaller vessels ferried families and their possessions from the Red Planet's domed cities. Engineering reports all systems ready for phase jump, announced Chief Systems Administrator Peter Chun from his position at the control panel. The brilliant technician had worked tirelessly to integrate Emma Stone's dimensional drive technology into the civilian fleet. Each transport ship could now vanish into phase space at a moment's notice, carrying its human cargo beyond the reach of Council sensors. The evacuation proceeded with military precision despite the enormous logistical challenges involved. Mining stations throughout the asteroid belt were stripped of their equipment and personnel. Research facilities on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn shut down their operations and prepared for departure. Even the orbital shipyards around Earth began relocating their most valuable assets to mobile platforms that could accompany the Exodus fleet. But the Council was not sitting idle while humanity prepared to escape. Their patrol fleets had been reinforced with warships from all 12 member species, creating a blockade that stretched across the outer boundaries of the solar system. Any ship attempting to leave human space would face overwhelming firepower from alien weapon systems perfected over thousands of years. Captain Danny Collins commanded the destroyer Vigilant, one of the new phase-jump warships that would escort the civilian transports to safety. His vessel represented the cutting edge of human military technology, equipped with plasma cannons that could strike targets from unexpected angles, and armor plating that could shift between dimensions to avoid incoming fire. Contact bearing 37 Mark 8 reported his tactical officer as the ship's sensors detected an approaching Council patrol. 6 vessels, mixed configuration, moving to intercept Transport Group 7. Danny smiled grimly as he studied the enemy formation. The alien ships were following standard interception protocols. Assuming the human vessels would behave like conventional spacecraft, they had no idea what they were about to face. All weapons, prepare for phase shift targeting, he ordered. Let's show these Council dogs what happens when they threaten human civilians. The battle began when the lead Council ship fired warning shots across the bow of the transport New Horizon. The alien commander's message was broadcast on all frequencies, demanding immediate surrender and return to Earth. Danny's response came in the form of plasma bolts that materialized inside the enemy vessel's shield perimeter. But passing their defenses entirely, the Council ships reacted with confusion as their sensors showed impossible weapon trajectories that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. Their return fire struck empty space as Vigilant phase jumped away from their targeting solutions, reappearing behind them to deliver another devastating salvo. Within minutes, Three alien warships had been crippled or destroyed, while the human destroyer remained completely undamaged. The surviving Council vessels retreated in disorder, broadcasting urgent warnings about humanity's mysterious new capabilities to their fleet commanders. News of the victory spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks. For the first time since the Exile Order, humans felt hope that they might actually escape the trap that had been set for them. The Council leadership, meanwhile, realized they were dealing with a far more dangerous opponent than they had anticipated. Dr. Rachel Adams worked feverishly aboard the research vessel Pioneer as it explored the void zones she had discovered. Months earlier, these regions of twisted spacetime existed outside normal galactic geography, hidden from conventional sensors by natural dimensional barriers. They were perfect hiding places for human settlements, but mapping them safely required careful study of exotic physics phenomena. "The gravitational distortions are stronger than we expected," she reported to Admiral Hudson during their daily briefing, "but they're also more stable than our initial readings suggested. We could build entire cities in these pocket dimensions without worrying about detection." The first major void zone settlement was established around a rogue planet that drifted through the darkness between star systems. Colony Administrator Linda Thompson supervised the construction of New Horizon, humanity's first truly independent world since the exile began. The planet existed in a bubble of altered spacetime that made it effectively invisible to outside observers. Thousands of engineers and construction workers labored to create a self-sufficient civilization in the hidden world. Massive dome cities rose from the planet's surface, while orbital platforms provided manufacturing capabilities that rivaled anything in Council space. Most importantly, phase jump gates connected New Horizon to other human settlements scattered throughout the void zones. The evacuation fleet grew larger each day as more humans abandoned the solar system. Some came from official colonies that had received permission to relocate. Others fled secretly from worlds where Council occupation forces had already arrived. A few were rescued from prison camps where alien authorities had detained humans suspected of supporting the resistance. Marcus Webb's engineering teams worked around the clock to convert civilian ships for long-distance travel through phase space. Passenger liners became mobile cities. Cargo haulers were transformed into factory ships that could maintain the fleet's industrial capacity during the journey. Even luxury yachts were modified to carry scientific equipment and research laboratories. The human fleet's mobility gave it enormous advantages over the static Council forces. While alien commanders struggled to coordinate their blockade across vast distances, human ships could appear anywhere in the solar system within minutes. They rescued stranded colonists from worlds the Council thought were secure, then vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The aliens' growing frustration became apparent when they began bombing abandoned human facilities rather than simply occupying them. Images of destroyed research stations and mining platforms spread through human communication networks, reinforcing their determination to escape Council tyranny entirely. Rick Hayes led increasingly bold rescue missions deep into occupied territory. His ship Exodus had been upgraded with the latest phase jump drive modifications, allowing it to penetrate even heavily guarded systems. Rick's most daring operation was the liberation of the Europa Research Facility, where 300 human scientists had been held prisoner for months. The rescue began when Exodus materialized inside the facility's protective shields, completely bypassing the Council patrol ships in orbit. Rick's strike team fought their way through alien security forces while the ship's crew evacuated the imprisoned researchers. The entire operation took less than 20 minutes, and the Council ships never even realized what had happened until the humans were already gone. As the Exodus continued, humanity's hidden empire began to take shape. New Horizon was joined by a dozen other settlements, each specialized for different functions. New Gibraltar became the primary shipyard where humanity's growing fleet was constructed. New Tokyo served as a massive research center where scientists from different worlds could collaborate on advanced projects. New Moscow housed the military command facilities that coordinated resistance operations throughout known space. the phase jump gate. Network allowed instant communication and travel between all human settlements. A message sent from New Horizon could reach every colony within minutes. Personnel and supplies could be transferred across thousands of light years as easily as taking a short trip. The scattered human communities became more connected than they had ever been when confined to a single solar system. Admiral Hudson established his new headquarters on the fortress world of Haven, a heavily defended planet at the center of the Void Zone network. From this hidden command center, he directed operations that spanned half the galaxy. The Liberation Front had evolved into something greater than a mere resistance movement. It had become the foundation for a new human civilization that would be stronger and more resilient than anything the Council had ever imagined. As the Great Exodus entered its final phase, over 40 million humans had been successfully relocated to the Void Zones. They brought with them the accumulated knowledge and technology of 2 centuries of galactic citizenship, plus innovations developed during their desperate fight for freedom. The Council had intended to contain and eventually destroy humanity, but instead they had forced the creation of a hidden empire that would soon challenge their ancient dominion over the stars. 10 years had transformed humanity's desperate refugee camps into a thriving interstellar civilization. Jake Morrison stood in the Crystal Palace of Haven, the capital world of what had become known as the Human Imperial Federation, and marveled at how far his species had come since their banishment from galactic society. The former ambassador who had witnessed humanity's exile now wore the crown of the first human emperor, chosen by the unanimous vote of 47 colony worlds. Your Majesty, the latest intelligence reports confirm our suspicions about the Council's true nature, announced Intelligence Director Rick Hayes as he entered the throne room. The former rescue pilot had built humanity's spy network into the most effective information-gathering organization in the galaxy. His agents operated throughout Council space, recruited from the growing number of alien species who had begun to question their ancient rulers. Jake examined the holographic documents that Rick projected in the air between them. The evidence was damning and confirmed what Patricia Kane had suspected years earlier. The Galactic Council had systematically eliminated over 30 species during their 3,000-year reign, always using the same excuse of protecting galactic peace and stability. The pattern is consistent across all the historical records we've recovered, Rick continued. First comes the accusation of being too dangerous or unpredictable. Then exile from galactic society. Finally, complete extermination once the target species is isolated and defenseless. We were supposed to be victim number 31. The Emperor nodded grimly. The knowledge that humanity had barely escaped total genocide only strengthened his resolve to build an empire strong enough to challenge the Council's tyranny. Under his leadership, the Human Imperial Federation had grown from a collection of hidden colonies into a force that rivaled any of the major galactic powers. General Lisa Grant commanded the Imperial Navy from her flagship Retribution, a massive dreadnought that represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. Her fleet had grown to over 3,000 vessels, each equipped with the latest phase jump drive technology and weapon systems that could strike targets across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our shipyards are producing new warships faster than the Council can replace their losses from border skirmishes, Lisa reported during the weekly military briefing. The Centauri defectors have provided us with their advanced shield generators, while the Altarian rebels have shared their metallurgy techniques. Our ships are now superior to anything in the Council fleet. The Empire's rapid expansion had been made possible by Dr. Emma Stone's breakthrough in mass production techniques for phase jump drives. Her research teams at the new Tokyo facility could now manufacture the complex dimensional engines in quantities that would have been impossible just a few years earlier. Every human ship, from massive battlecruisers to tiny courier vessels, could travel instantly between star systems without following predictable routes that enemies could intercept. Industrial Commander Sally Mitchell oversaw the construction of New Gibraltar, humanity's primary military shipyard. The massive facility had been built inside a captured asteroid and hidden within a particularly dense void zone that made it invisible to Council sensors. Thousands of workers labored around the clock to produce the vessels that would carry human expansion to every corner of the galaxy. "We're launching a new destroyer every 3 days and a cruiser every week," Sally reported proudly. "At this rate, we'll have the largest fleet in galactic history within 5 years." The Empire's success attracted attention from species throughout Council space who had grown tired of alien domination. The first non-human members of the Imperial Federation were the Centauri Republic, who had secretly negotiated their defection through Ambassador Peter Chun's diplomatic corps. The Centaurians bring advanced defensive technology and manufacturing capabilities, Peter explained to the Emperor during their private meeting. But more importantly, they represent proof that other species are willing to abandon the Council in favor of human leadership. The Altarian Rebellion had been the first successful uprising against Council authority in over 1,000 years, and it had succeeded primarily because of covert human support. Weapons, supplies, and military advisors had been secretly provided to the metal-based life forms who had grown weary of Zephyrian oppression. Colonial Governor Amanda Brooks established the principles that would guide the Empire's treatment of non-human members. Unlike the Council's rigid hierarchy that placed ancient species at the top and younger races at the bottom, the Human Imperial Federation operated on merit and voluntary association. Any species that joined the Empire retained complete autonomy over their internal affairs while benefiting from human military protection and technological advancement. "Freedom must be earned through strength," Amanda declared during the first interspecies assembly on Haven. "But once earned, it must be protected for all who choose to stand with us against tyranny." The Empire's philosophy attracted increasing numbers of alien rebels and refugees who fled Council space seeking the opportunities that human civilization offered. Research facilities throughout the Imperial Federation welcomed scientists from dozens of species who contributed their unique perspectives to collaborative projects that advanced the frontiers of knowledge. Captain Marcus Webb led the first expedition beyond the galactic rim using new ultra-long-range phase jump drives that could traverse distances previously thought impossible. His ship Pathfinder discovered 17 habitable worlds in unexplored regions of space, providing the Empire with unlimited room for expansion without threatening any existing civilizations. "The universe is far larger than the Council ever imagined," Marcus reported upon his return. "There are entire galaxies waiting to be explored by species brave enough to venture into the unknown." The Empire's technological advantages allowed it to dominate any direct military confrontation with Council forces. Human warships could appear without warning in the middle of alien formations, deliver devastating attacks, and vanish before the enemy could respond effectively. Phase-shifted weapons bypassed conventional defenses while dimensional armor made human vessels nearly invulnerable to conventional attacks, but the Empire's greatest weapon was its message of hope and freedom that spread throughout the oppressed populations of Council space. Planets that had been subjugated for centuries began demanding independence from their ancient overlords. Species that had been classified as junior members of galactic society started asserting their right to self-determination. Tony Parker had been promoted to fleet commander after his innovations in weapons technology gave human ships decisive advantages in combat. His latest creation was a phase cannon that could target multiple enemy vessels simultaneously by splitting its energy beam across several dimensions at once. The Council's ships were designed for warfare against opponents using conventional technology, Tony explained to General Grant during their tactical review. "They have no defense against weapons that attack from angles that shouldn't exist according to their understanding of physics." The Imperial Federation's intelligence network, under Rick Hayes' direction, had infiltrated most of the major Council governments and many of their military organizations. Human agents, assisted by alien sympathizers, gathered information about enemy capabilities while spreading propaganda that encouraged rebellion against the established order. "We now have contacts within 8 of the 12 Council species," Rick reported to Emperor Morrison. 3 of them have expressed interest in following the Centaurian example and defecting to our side. The Council's unity is fracturing as their member species realize they no longer need to fear the ancient powers that have dominated them for millennia. The Empire's diplomatic corps, led by Chief Ambassador Linda Thompson, conducted formal negotiations with potential allies while maintaining the facade that humanity was still confined to isolated settlements in the void zones. Council intelligence. Agencies remained largely unaware of the true scope of human expansion, allowing the Imperial Federation to continue growing its power base without triggering a full-scale galactic war. Patience is our greatest ally, Linda advised the Emperor during their strategic planning session. The longer we can avoid open conflict with the Council, the stronger we become relative to their static military capabilities. As the Empire entered its second decade, it controlled over 200 star systems and counted 11 non-human species as full members. The Phase Jump Gate network connected every major settlement, creating a unified civilization that spanned thousands of light years. Most importantly, the Imperial Federation had demonstrated that galactic governance could be based on voluntary cooperation rather than imposed domination. The human Imperial Federation had achieved what the ancient Galactic Council never could. It had created a truly united interstellar civilization based on mutual respect, technological sharing, and the fundamental belief that every intelligent species had the right to determine its own destiny among the stars. The Council's discovery of humanity's true strength came through blood and fire. War Master Zeph 9, the most powerful military commander in Zephyrian history, watched in disbelief as his patrol fleet simply vanished from existence near what Council sensors insisted was empty space. 24 of the most advanced warships in the Galactic Navy had disappeared without sending so much as a distress signal, leaving behind only scattered debris that defied analysis by their best scientists. "This is impossible," the ancient being declared as he studied the battle reports in his crystalline command chamber. "No species has the technology to destroy an entire fleet without being detected by our sensors." But the impossible was becoming routine as humanity's shadow war against the Council entered its deadliest phase. Emperor Jake Morrison had authorized Admiral Kyle Hudson to begin direct military action against alien installations throughout their territory. The gloves were finally coming off after a decade of careful preparation and covert expansion. Admiral Hudson commanded the Imperial Armada. From his flagship Vengeance, a massive dreadnought equipped with the most advanced phase jump systems ever built. His fleet could strike anywhere in Council space within hours, deliver devastating attacks against strategic targets, then vanish back into the void zones before enemy reinforcements could respond. Intelligence confirms that the Council has begun evacuating their civilian populations from border worlds, reported General Lisa Grant during the morning briefing. They're finally starting to understand that we're not the helpless refugees they thought they had banished. The war's opening moves had been carefully planned to maximize psychological impact while minimizing actual casualties. Human strike. Teams materialized inside Council military bases, disabled their weapons and communication systems, then departed with captured intelligence data. Alien commanders found themselves fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere without warning and seemed to know their every tactical move in advance. Captain Danny Collins had been promoted to Commodore after his successful defense of the Exodus. Fleet years earlier. Now he led Squadron 7, 12 of humanity's most advanced destroyers, on deep penetration raids into the heart of Council space. His ships could phase jump directly into enemy formations, unleash devastating firepower, and escape before their opponents could even acquire targeting solutions. "The aliens are starting to panic," Danny observed as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "Their patrol schedules have become completely random because they know we can predict and avoid any organized defensive pattern they establish. The Shadow War's most audacious operation was the liberation of Earth itself." Intelligence Director Rick Hayes had spent months infiltrating the Council occupation force that controlled humanity's birth world. His agents had mapped every defensive installation and identified the weaknesses in their security systems. The blockade fleet has 47 major warships plus supporting vessels. Rick briefed Admiral Hudson in the Secure Command Center on Haven, but they're spread across the entire solar system and configured for preventing escape rather than repelling invasion. If we can coordinate a simultaneous phase jump by the entire armada, we can overwhelm them before they can organize. An effective response? The liberation began at dawn on Earth's eastern hemisphere. Hundreds of human warships materialized throughout the solar system in perfect synchronization, their phase jump drives creating a light show that was visible from the planet's surface. The Council blockade fleet found itself outnumbered 3-1 by enemies that had appeared from nowhere. The battle was over within 6 hours. Half the alien ships were destroyed outright while the survivors fled toward the outer system in complete disorder. Human ground forces, led by Colonel Amanda Brooks, landed at strategic points around Earth and began dismantling the occupation infrastructure that had held their homeworld prisoner for over a decade. News of Earth's liberation spread through human space faster than light, transmitted through the phase jump communication network that connected every Imperial Federation world. Celebrations erupted on dozens of planets as colonists realized that humanity had finally struck back against their oppressors in a meaningful way. But the Council's response was swift and brutal. Ancient fleets that had not moved from their home systems in centuries began converging on human territory. The 12 founding species put aside their traditional rivalries to face what they now recognized as an existential threat to their 3,000-year dominion over the galaxy. Dr. Rachel Adams had spent years studying captured Council technology in her hidden laboratories on New Tokyo. Her research revealed critical weaknesses in the aliens, ancient defensive systems that could be exploited by human weapons designed to operate across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their shield generators are based on principles that were state-of-the-art 3 millennia ago, she explained to Emperor Morrison during an emergency session of the Imperial Council. But they can't adapt to weapons that phase shift through parallel dimensions before striking their targets. We can punch through their defenses like they were made of paper. Fleet Commander Tony Parker implemented Rachel's discoveries in a new generation of warships that could deliver coordinated attacks across several dimensional planes at once. The revolutionary weapon systems allowed smaller, human vessels to destroy much larger Council dreadnoughts. With surgical precision strikes that bypassed all their protective measures, the tide of war began turning in humanity's favor as more Council member species started questioning their ancient leaders' decision-making abilities. Intelligence reports indicated that at least 6 of the 12 founding races were experiencing internal rebellions led by younger generations, who had grown tired of endless warfare against innocent civilizations. The Altarians have formally withdrawn from the Council military alliance, announced Chief Ambassador Linda Thompson during her briefing to the Imperial leadership. Their representatives cite humanity's superior moral authority and technological innovation as reasons for switching sides. The Centauri Republic's defection had been kept secret for years, but now they openly declared their allegiance to the Human Imperial Federation. Their advanced manufacturing capabilities were immediately put to work, producing phase jump drives for newly constructed warships, while their diplomatic corps began recruiting other species to join the growing alliance against Council tyranny. The Shadow War's turning point came when Admiral Hudson's armada captured an intact Council dreadnought during a raid on their shipyards near the Galactic core. The massive vessel, crewed by representatives of all 12 founding species, provided unprecedented intelligence about enemy capabilities and strategic plans. "They're more frightened than we realized," Rick Hayes reported after interrogating the captured crew members. "The Council leadership knows their military technology is obsolete compared to ours, but they can't admit it without undermining the authority they've maintained for 3,000 years. The interrogations revealed that the Council had been preparing for humanity's eventual resistance since the day they issued the Exile Order. Secret weapons programs had been developing new technologies specifically designed to counter human advantages, but their efforts were hampered by the bureaucratic inefficiency that plagued their ancient governmental system. Their research is At least 20 years behind ours, observed Dr. Emma Stone after reviewing the captured technical data. By the time they develop countermeasures for our current weapons, we'll have moved on to entirely new approaches they can't even imagine. The Human Imperial Federation's alliance network continued growing as more species abandoned the Council to join humanity's cause. The promise of freedom from ancient tyranny combined with access to revolutionary technology proved irresistible to civilizations that had been subjugated for millennia under alien rule. Emperor Morrison addressed the expanding Federation from his throne room on Haven, his words broadcast to hundreds of worlds through the phase jump communication network. "We did not choose this war," he declared. "It was forced upon us by tyrants who could not tolerate the existence of free people, but we will finish it on our terms." The Shadow War had evolved from desperate resistance into a campaign of liberation that would reshape the entire galaxy. Human fleets roamed Council space almost at will, striking strategic targets while avoiding civilian casualties. Alien military commanders found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to exist outside the normal rules of warfare, appearing and disappearing at will while leaving destruction in their wake. As the war entered its 5th year, the Council's unity finally began to fracture beyond repair. 3 more founding species had withdrawn from the military alliance, while rebellions erupted on dozens of member worlds. The ancient powers that had dominated galactic civilization for 3 millennia were discovering that their subjects no longer feared them. The final phase of the Shadow War was about to begin, and humanity held all the advantages. The species that the Council had condemned as too dangerous for galactic society was proving them right in ways they never could have anticipated. The crystalline spires of Nexus Prime gleamed under the light of 3 suns as Emperor Jake Morrison walked through the halls where humanity had once been condemned to exile. 15 years had passed since that fateful day, and now the former Galactic Council headquarters served as the seat of the United Species Assembly, a truly representative government that included over 400 member civilizations from across the galaxy. The final collapse of the Council had come not through military defeat but through political dissolution. As more species defected to the Human Imperial Federation, the ancient alliance of 12 founding races found itself governing empty space while their former subjects built new lives under human protection. The last holdout species, the energy beings who called themselves the First Enlightened, had formally surrendered just 3 months earlier when their home dimension was surrounded by human phase jump fleets. "The transformation is complete, Your Majesty," announced Chief Administrator Amanda Brooks as she presented the final integration reports. The former military commander had overseen the peaceful transition from the old Council system to the new Federation government, ensuring that every species received fair representation regardless of their size or technological development. Jake studied the holographic displays that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Where once there had been rigid hierarchies enforced by ancient powers, now there was a voluntary association of free peoples united by common principles of justice and mutual respect. The Phase Jump Gate network connected thousands of worlds, allowing instant communication and travel between civilizations separated by vast distances. Dr. Emma Stone had been appointed as the Federation's first Director of Technological Development, a position created to ensure that scientific advances benefited all member species equally. Her research teams worked with scientists from hundreds of different civilizations, combining human innovation with alien expertise to push the boundaries of knowledge beyond anything previously imagined. The new faster-than-light communication system will be operational within 6 months, Emma reported during the weekly science briefing. Every world in the Federation will be able to transmit messages across the galaxy instantly, regardless of distance. The age of isolated civilizations is finally ending. Captain Marcus Webb had been promoted to Admiral of Exploration after his successful mapping of regions beyond the galactic rim. His expeditions had discovered over 2,000 habitable worlds in previously unknown star systems, providing unlimited opportunities for expansion without displacing existing civilizations. The Federation's growth was driven by exploration, rather than conquest, a revolutionary approach that attracted new members daily. We've made contact with 3 new spacefaring civilizations in the Andromeda Spiral, Marcus announced during his latest briefing to the Imperial Council. All of them have expressed interest in joining the Federation after learning about our principles of voluntary association and technological sharing. The Federation's greatest achievement was the establishment of the Galactic Bill of Rights, a document that guaranteed fundamental freedoms to all sentient beings regardless of their species or origin. Chief Justice Linda Thompson had worked with legal scholars from dozens of civilizations to create a framework that protected individual liberty while respecting cultural diversity. Every being has the right to determine their own destiny, Linda declared during the document's formal ratification ceremony. No species, no matter how ancient or powerful, has the authority to impose their will upon others. The age of galactic tyranny is over. The former council species had been integrated into the new Federation with surprising ease once their ancient leadership structures were dismantled. Many younger members of these civilizations had privately supported humanity's rebellion and were eager to participate in the more egalitarian system that replaced their rigid hierarchies. Intelligence. Director Rick Hayes had transformed his spy network into the Federation's Diplomatic Intelligence Service, an organization dedicated to identifying potential conflicts before they could escalate into warfare. His agents operated openly throughout the galaxy, gathering information about emerging threats while building relationships with civilizations that had not yet joined the Federation. We've prevented 17 potential wars through early diplomatic intervention, Rick reported to Emperor Morrison. The old council approach of waiting until conflicts exploded into violence before taking action has been completely abandoned in favor of proactive peacemaking. The Federation's military forces, commanded by Admiral Kyle Hudson from his headquarters on Haven, served primarily as peacekeepers and explorers rather than conquerors. The Imperial Navy's advanced technology allowed them to intervene quickly in any dispute, but their mission was to separate combatants and facilitate negotiations rather than impose solutions through force. Our ships carried diplomats and mediators as well as weapons, Kyle explained to newly appointed regional commanders. Military force is always our last resort, used only when all other options have been exhausted. The economic transformation of galactic civilization under human leadership had been equally dramatic. Industrial Commander Sally Mitchell oversaw a production network that spanned thousands of worlds, creating abundance through technological innovation rather than exploitation of weaker species. The phase jump drive technology had revolutionized manufacturing by eliminating transportation costs between star systems. Every world in the Federation now has access to resources from across the galaxy, Sally reported during the annual economic summit. Scarcity-based conflicts are becoming extinct as our distribution network ensures that all member civilizations have what they need for prosperity. The cultural exchange programs initiated by Colonial Governor Patricia Kane had created a renaissance in art, literature, and philosophy that drew inspiration from hundreds of different species. Universities on every world welcome students and faculty from across the galaxy, fostering understanding between civilizations that had previously viewed each other as alien and incomprehensible. Knowledge belongs to all sentient beings, Patricia declared during the opening of the new Galactic University on Nexus Prime. The barriers that once separated our civilizations are dissolving as we learn from each other's perspectives and experiences. Fleet Commander Tony Parker had converted his weapons research teams into peaceful technology development, groups that focused on improving life for all Federation citizens. The same innovations that had given humanity military superiority over the Council were now being used to terraform hostile worlds, defend against natural disasters, and explore dangerous regions of space safely. The technology that won the war is now building the peace, Tony explained to his engineering staff. Every weapon we created can be transformed into a tool for construction rather than destruction. Emperor Morrison's final act before transitioning to the new democratic system was to address the assembled representatives of 400 species from his throne on Haven. The speech, broadcast through the phase jump communication network to every world in the Federation, reflected on humanity's journey from exiled pariahs to galactic leaders. 15 years ago, the Council judged us too dangerous for civilized society, he began. They were right, but not in the way they imagined. We were dangerous to tyrants, dangerous to oppression, dangerous to the idea that some species are born to rule while others are born to serve. The Emperor's words resonated throughout the galaxy as he announced his decision to step down from absolute power in favor of the new democratic system. The human Imperial Federation was born from necessity, but it was always meant to be temporary. True freedom cannot be imposed from above, even by benevolent rulers. It must be chosen by free people working together toward common goals. The transition ceremony took place in the Great Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime, where representatives of hundreds of civilizations watched as Jake Morrison removed the Imperial crown and placed it in a crystal case that would serve as a reminder of humanity's temporary stewardship of galactic civilization. "I am no longer your emperor," he declared to the assembled delegates. "I am simply Jake Morrison, citizen of Earth and member of the United Species Federation. My species has completed the task that history assigned to us. The galaxy is free, and now it is yours to govern." The first democratic election in galactic history resulted in Morrison's selection as president of the United Species Federation, but this time his authority came from the consent of the governed rather than military conquest. The peaceful transfer of power demonstrated that humanity's commitment to freedom was genuine rather than merely rhetorical. 50 years later, an elderly Jake Morrison sat in the gardens of New Geneva, the Federation capital built on the site of humanity's first space station. Around him played children of dozens of different species, their laughter echoing across flower beds that bloomed with plants from hundreds of worlds. Above them, ships equipped with human-designed phase jump drives departed for unexplored regions of the universe, carrying the Federation's message of freedom and cooperation to whatever wonders awaited among the infinite stars.